What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Shadow Force TCG, and today we are going to take a look at the top 10 Burning Shadows cards. Another top 10 video. If you guys like these top 10 videos, definitely make sure to tell me in the comment section below. And today we'll just be looking at my opinion on the top 10 Burning Shadows cards. The new set, Sun and Moon Burning Shadows, coming out August 4th, going to be legal for Worlds. And now we're looking at the best cards, the cards that are going to be most played, the cards that are going to have the most impact on the game. And let's first start off with some honorable mentions. Kiawe is a new supporter card. It barely made the top 10. You start your deck for 4 energy, attach them to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck, then your turn ends. And this card's good. Paired with the new Ho-Oh-EX, or GX, sorry about that. Turn 1, you can just get 4 energies on the field and then pass your turn. But since it's turn 1, you can't attack anyways. But I feel like any other turn besides turn 1, Kiawe is kind of a useless supporter. But in some decks, like Volcanion, it might be played as a one-of. But yeah, we'll just see how Kiawe goes. But it's like close to being in the top 10, but not quite there. Next we have Super Scoop Up. The only reason that this is not in the top 10 is because it is a reprint. If you don't already know, you flip a coin of heads, put one of your Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hands, and that effect is just insane. If you flip heads, that can be game changing sometimes. You can pair it with things that when you evolve it, like the new Raichu, when you evolve it, your opponent's active Pokemon is paralyzed. You can pair that with Super Scoop Up, keep picking it up, keep evolving your Pikachus into Raichus. It can heal damage, it can even pick up a Tapu Lele to search for a supporter. It just has so many uses. And then also Marshadow GX. I love this card so much. If you don't already know, mainly used for the ability. It can use the attacks of any basic Pokemon in your discard pile, and it still has to have the necessary energy to use this attack. So I've been playing this with Rainbow Energies and like Jolteon and Glaceon, and like things to put in the discard, just certain techs against certain matchups, and I like it a lot. But the only problem is Hex Maniac. If your opponent just uses a Hex Maniac, your Shadow Hunt ability is turned off, and you probably can't even attack then. But in the rotation, after Worlds, Hex Maniac is going to be rotated, and Marshadow GX might see some play. I really like the card. I'll probably be playing a little bit once Hex rotates, and then expanded we have Battle Compressor, so it's even easier to put the basic Pokemon in your discard pile. But yeah, I'll be doing a video on this pretty shortly. Next, we got Muscle Dumbbells in the number 10 spot. A lot of people hate on this card, but I actually like it a lot. So when you attach it to one of your Pokemon that is stage 1 Pokemon, the HP is increased by 40. And take Noivern GX, for instance, is probably the best partner for this card. Noivern GX is 200 HP. With a Muscle Dumbbells, that is 240 HP, the same amount as a Primal Groudon EX. And the thing about Muscle Dumbbells is, yeah, it can get field lowered off, and then your HP is just completely, and then the Muscle Dumbbells is just completely useless, and you might as well just have a Choice Band. But with Noivern, if you use Distortion, they actually can't play that field blower, and therefore Muscle Dumbbells is going to be really, really good. And I think Muscle Dumbbells is good against a lot of other stage 1 decks like Sylveon. Sylveon is another kind of deck out deck, and it has 200 HP with Muscle Dumbbells 240, and I think this card is very underrated, and I actually do think it'll see some tournament play. And number 9, we got a Alolan Muk GX. Chemical Press, the main attack that we want to be using, and then also the GX attack is pretty cool. It does 10 damage, and it does 70 more damage for each special condition affecting your opponent's active Pokemon. So if your opponent's active Pokemon is affected by 2 special conditions, let's say play down a Salazzle, so they're burned and paralyzed, or not burned and paralyzed, that would be completely broken, but burned and poisoned, then it does 150 damage. Compare that, or combine that with a Choice Band, that's 180 damage, and then combine that with the poison and burn damage, that is 210 damage, which for only a double colorless and a dark is really not too shabby. And then the GX attack you can use for 0 energy, and choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch it to their active Pokemon, and then that Pokemon is now poisoned, burned, and paralyzed. Now the only downside about special conditions right now is they did print new supporter card Guzma, and Guzma kind of messes with a lot of special conditions because when you play it, you get to switch your Pokemon, and when you switch your Pokemon, then the special condition goes away. So that's the only problem with this Tri-Hazard GX attack, but other than that, I think Alolan Muck GX, compared with the Salazzle, and also the Alolan Muck that isn't the GX that shuts off basic Pokemon abilities, could actually be pretty good, and I'm definitely going to try that out. Number 8, we have Ho-Oh GX, and we talked about this card compared with Kiawe, and Phoenix Burn, 180 damage, and it can't use Phoenix Burn during your next turn. So it's kind of like Volcanion, Volcanion EX, where it can't use the attack next turn. This can be fixed with things like Guzma to go into another Ho-Oh GX, or like something with a Float Stone to then retreat. Can be paired with even Pokemon Ranger to get rid of that effect. Compared with Float Stone. There's a lot of ways to get out of, to use the Phoenix Burn over and over and over again. And doing 180 damage, 180 is really like, 180 and 210 I feel like are really kind of the magic numbers. And 180 with a Choice Band, that's 210. Maybe you play this with Volcanion EX, you can use some Steam Ups and you can do a bunch of damage, which is why Ho-Oh GX is pretty cool. It also has a Sacred Fire attack for a DC and a Fire, which is probably going to be used with just 3 Fires. Just 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. And this can be used just to kind of chip off on some Pokemon, make sure you can get those KOs later. Or maybe if you miss a KO, you can just use the Sacred Fire and just pick that Pokemon off the field. And also has a GX attack. Put 3 in combination of Fire Pokemon EX or Pokemon GX from discard pile onto your bench. And keep in mind, you can put a Stage 2 Pokemon GX from discard pile onto your bench. Now sadly, the only really good Fire-type Pokemon GX is, or like any at all, is Charizard GX and Incineroar GX. So maybe if they print some cool new Fire-type Stage 1 or Stage 2 GX Pokemon, Ho-Oh GX's GX attack will put in some work. Number 7, we got Plumeria, a new supporter card where you discard 2 cards from your hand, and then you get to discard 1 energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. This might remind you of Team Flare Gun. Well, Team Flare Gun can only discard your opponent's active Pokemon. Plumeria can discard discard energy off of any of your opponent's Pokemon. The only downside is you do have to discard 2 cards from your hand, but in some decks, like Turbo Darkrai, like water decks that use Aqua Patch, like even the Marshadow GX deck, where you want to get the basic Pokemon into the discard pile, Plumeria actually helps with that, and then also discards an energy. So I feel like in some decks, in mill decks and disruption decks, this card will definitely be played in, and then in some decks that actually want to be discarding cards from their hand, this deck could be a cool addition as well. Number 6, we got Necrozma GX, and this card is insane, mainly used for the GX attack. Although if you do play it with something like Metagross GX, you can take advantage of the regular attack Prismatic Burst. But mainly the GX attack, Blackrai GX, does 100 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon EX and Pokemon GX. 100 damage! So let's say your opponent has, let's say, 4 Pokemon GX or EX on the field. You're doing a total of 400 damage for 3 energies, which is insane. And you can also pair this with things like the new Tapu Lele, that for a Psychic and a Colorless, you get to move all your opponent's damage counters as much as you like. So if you have like 100 on 2 things, and you want to knock out, let's say, 1 Volcanion EX, but you have 100 damage on 2 Tapu Lele GXs, you can use Tapu Lele, move 100 damage from one Tapu Lele to Volcanion, and then 80 damage from the other Tapu Lele to Volcanion, and knock out the Volcanion. It could also be paired with Espeon EX, doing 100 damage to, let's say, some Stage 1 GXs or Stage 2 GXs, and then you'll be able to use Espeon EX to pick up the Stage 2 GXs and then knock out whatever's underneath, because I don't really think there's any like stage 1 Pokemon that goes into a stage 2 GX that has over 100 HP. So Blackray GX is really good, and keep in mind the ability, no colorless Pokemon can touch you. Things like Drampa GX, Tauros GX, Mega Rayquaza EX, even though that's going to be rotated, it can't even touch this guy, unless of course they have a Hexmaniac or a Garbodor or Garbotoxin, but that's not the point. Necrozma is a beast. Number 5, we got Noivern GX, Seismitoad EX, Giratina EX, and GX Attack all combined into one, and I am a huge fan of Seismitoad EX. Therefore, I'm a huge fan of this card. I profiled my deck list on my channel if you want to go ahead and check that one out, or if you've already seen that. Distortion just does 50 damage, but during your opponent's next turn, your opponent can't play any item cards from their hand, and most decks play like 15 to 20 item cards, I want to say, and they can't use a good quarter of their deck with Distortion. And with a Choice Band, Distortion can do 80 damage, which 3 shots pretty much everything in the format. And it also has Loud Sonic for a Psychic, a Dark, and a Colorless, which once again can be provided with just 1 Double Dragon energy and then 1 of any other energy. 120 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, your opponent can't play any special energy cards from their hand. Every single deck, except for Volcanion, Turbo Darkrai, and Metagross, play special energy, so shutting off pretty much every single deck is insane. They can't play the special energy cards, and really no deck plays Pokemon Ranger. The only thing that can really get past this Noivern is by playing Pokemon Ranger, then you can play your item cards, then you can play your special energy cards. But no decks really play that. And then it also has the GX attack, which I think is just an insane attack. 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Now we didn't profile, but we just took a look at Necrozma GX that did 100 damage to each of your opponent's GX Pokemon. And compared to Necrozma GX, this doesn't really look like much. But you get to chip off your opponent's Pokemon, maybe do Distortion like 3 times to like 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, and then you can just go in with an explosive Soundwave GX and take multiple prizes in one single turn with a freaking Seismitoad and Giratina combined into one Stage 1 GX Pokemon, which is just insane! Number 4, we got Golisopod GX. Big fan of this card. Evolves from Wimpod. And the main attack you want to use with this Golisopod GX is First Impression. 30 damage for a single grass energy, and if it became your active Pokemon during this turn, does 90 more damage. So 120 damage for a single grass energy, with a Choice Band that's 150, and with things like the Lurantis promo that adds 20 damage to grass-type Pokemon, things like the Decidueye that puts some damage counters on the field, you can take 1 shots for 1 energy. And that is super strong. My personal favorite way to play Golisopod GX is with Decidueye GX. You can like spread damage, you can do a lot of things with Decidueye GX to make Golisopod GX really, I guess, really good in my opinion. It also has the second attack, Armor Press, for a grass and a double colorless, 100 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 20 less damage from attacks, which is not bad at all. If, let's say, you can't get a Golisopod GX in the active that turn and get the full First Impression for 120 damage, you can just attach double colorless energy and use Armor Press, which does a solid 100 damage, and you can also use the Crossing Cut GX attack that is 150 damage, and you switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. So if you guys remember Donphan's Spinning Turn, that deck was probably the BDIF for a pretty long time, and it pretty much did 40 damage, and you switch into one of your bench. This does 150 damage. This does more than 3 times the amount of Spinning Turn as a GX attack, and you can like save some prizes. You can Crossing Cut GX into like a 1 prize attacker, or Pokemon like a Wimpod or a Rowlet, or even a Tapu Koko promo if you're playing that, and kind of save prizes that way. Conserve your Golisopod GXs, and Crossing Cut GX is really probably the best GX attack you can have on this Golisopod. Number 3, we are getting to the best of the best cards from this set. We got Acerola Choose one of your Pokemon with damage counters on it and return that Pokemon and all cards attached to it to your hand. That is insane. As we've discussed, Super Scoop Up can heal damage. Well, Acerola pretty much does the same thing, but no coin flip, and you can keep spamming it with VS Seekers. So having it be a supporter, yes, you can't use another supporter during that turn, but you can also keep recycling it with cards like VS Seeker. Yes, VS Seeker is getting rotated, but for world's sake, for the Anaheim Open's sake, you know, it's getting, I don't know. But yeah, you get to heal completely from one of your Pokemon. So let's say, I love this card paired with Golisopod GX and Noivern GX the most. Let's say your Noivern GX has like 180 damage on it, it's about to get knocked out. Boom! Acerola, pick up that Noivern, get that Double Dragon back into your hand, set up another Noivern, attach the single Double Dragon, and keep just smacking for 50 damage. Quaking Punch, Distortion, whatever. It is insane. And then with Golisopod GX, you can keep using First Impression for the whole 120 damage, because if they try to damage your Golisopod GX, you can Acerola that Golisopod, and then go into another Golisopod on your bench, and then attach that Grass Energy to that new active Golisopod, and you're dealing 120 damage while you heal, while you are just a Golisopod GX out as a tank. So Acerola is a card that is going to be played, I think, one-ofs in a lot of decks. Even in the Volcanion EX deck, I like it a lot. If you guys remember, before Guzma, Volcanion played Olympia. Some Volcanion lists still might play Olympia, but I don't know. And Olympia pretty much makes it so you can keep using that Volcanic Heat attack next turn. Well, with Acerola, you can pretty much do the same exact thing. If they try to damage your Volcanion EX, you can pick it up, pick all those fire energies up into your hand, and then you can even use your steam ups. And that's just, Acerola is really good in Volcanion too. So number 3, Acerola. And number 2, as we said, Guzma. And if you guys do know about Lysander, this is a Lysander and a Switch in one effect, and it's going to be pretty much played in every single deck in at least a 1-of, maybe a 2-of. And that's why it's really the number 2, because it really makes a huge impact into the metagame in the way that you build your deck. And it also gets rid of special conditions, so that makes it so special conditions are less powerful, and Guzma is just such a big impact. And for a while there, people were scared that we weren't going to get Lysander in our next rotation, but then they printed Guzma. I think everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, we have a card like Lysander. So yeah, Guzma is really insane. It's definitely going to impact the metagame a lot. And lastly, number 1 is Gardevoir GX. Yeah, it is. If you guys didn't expect that already, Gardevoir GX is an absolute tank. Let's start it off with a solid 230 HP. That's a lot of HP. Next, we have the Fountain of Secrets. You may attach an extra fire energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. That is insane. Next, we have Infinite Force, 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. Well, wait, we have Fountain of Secrets. We can get 1 billion energies on this thing and start hitting for huge amounts of damage. That is ridiculous. And lastly, we have Twilight GX. Search your discard pile for 10 cards, show them to your opponent, shuffle them back into your deck. And that is insane. Lysander's trump card was banned for a reason, everyone. It was banned for a reason. But nope, we got Twilight GX now. We can Lysander's trump card in the GX deck. That's completely fine. And it has a weakness to Metal, and there's not any good Metal Pokemon. Well, I guess there is Metagross GX, but that's it. And it's resistance to Dark. There is a lot of popular Dark-type Pokemon. This thing is an absolute beast. It is going to be the BDIF for a long time. I'm predicting this card is going to be absolutely ridiculous, everybody. And Gardevoir GX coming in that number 1 spot, coming in clutch. Just, oh my goodness. And, man, yeah, number 1, Gardevoir GX. And that is the video, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this top 10 video. Once again, if you want to see more of these top 10 videos, go ahead and tell me in the comment section below. Respond with a like, and also subscribe so you can see more of these videos. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.